Well, happy Hanukkah to those of you who celebrate. It began last night, running through Friday, December 15th. And we wanted to wish you a happy Hanukkah as we get this Friday morning started on KCMO. And a big thank you to every single one of you who participated and donated yesterday to our Children's Miracle Network, Miracle Day of Hope. We raised tens of thousands of dollars. I will have the official count later today. And we'll share that with you. If I get it by the end of the show time, I'll share it with you then. If not, I'll bring it to you first thing on Monday morning on KCMO. So thank you to all of you for your generous donations. It is one of our favorite days of the year here on KCMO Talk Radio. But it is, of course, the first day of Hanukkah. It started last night. And for the last 2 months, I mean, the irony of Hanukkah starting on December 7th, this year, which is exactly 2 months since the awful terrorist attacks on the people of Israel on October 7th, is awfully coincidental. And here we are 2 months later and still dealing with rampant anti-Semitism across the United States. And one of the core places it is happening is on college campuses. Well, after some of the most disturbing interviews that you will ever see on Capitol Hill earlier this week, we finally have some big donors who are stepping to the plate and saying enough is enough. If you missed it from earlier this week, Capitol Hill, there were 3 university presidents, MIT, Harvard were up there, and Penn. And these 3 presidents were getting grilled by Elise Stefanik about anti-Semitism. And take a listen. I'm not going to play the whole thing. It's about a 3-minute clip. Let me just play a little bit for you, though, so you can hear what exactly these university presidents sounded like as they were getting asked about calls for killing the Jews on their campuses and genocide, and how, casual they were in their responses to this stuff.
At MIT, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate MIT's code of conduct or rules regarding bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
If targeted at individuals, not making public statements.
Yes or no? Calling for the genocide of Jews does not constitute bullying and harassment?
I have not heard calling for the genocide for Jews on our campus.
But you've heard chants for intifada.
I've heard chants, which can be anti-Semitic depending on the context, when calling for the elimination of the Jewish people.
So those would not be according to the MIT's code of conduct or rules?
That would be investigated as harassment if pervasive and severe.
These people are ridiculous. And it went on and on and on like that with 3 Ivy League presidents on Capitol Hill on Tuesday afternoon. Well, we found out last night that University of Pennsylvania donor is withdrawing a gift of about $100 million to protest the school's response to anti-Semitism on campus. And this needs to happen in full force, and not just from folks who are Jewish. It's got to happen from decent people, even if you're giving $1,000 to your alma mater. You better know what's going on that campus. And if you don't, I wouldn't give them a dime. And I say that as somebody who went to Villanova, who has a lot of pride in my university. I had my flag out the other night before the K-State game. They've gotten a little woke. They haven't gotten crazy like the Ivy Leagues. They've gotten a little woke. But I'll tell you right now, as much as I love that basketball program, I met my wife there. We used to give them a couple of bucks, but I haven't done it the last couple of years because all I'm seeing out of them, all they're promoting out of that university, I hate to say, is basically DEI nonsense as they reach out and try to reach into your back pocket. And I'm not doing that. It's not what we're seeing on MIT's campus or Penn or Harvard or anything like that. But every single dollar makes a difference. So whether it's Ross Stevens, the founder and CEO of Stone Ridge Asset Management, who has withdrawn a $100 million gift, and apparently, according to Axios, the final straw was the hearing on Tuesday. He basically saw what happened on Tuesday. He saw the president of his university saying that, excusing or at least not taking very seriously the call of genocide towards Jews. And he said, screw it. You think you're getting my $100 million after this? Stick it where the sun don't shine. So good for him on that. This is just the most prominent example of what we're seeing. But this has to be the way forward because these universities are addicted to money. It's all they care about. They have very little morality. Their principles are slim to none. They care about money. It's why so many of these universities also take money from foreign entities. They're not just taking money from, mom and pop alums. Oftentimes, they are happy to cash big checks from foreign entities because all they care about is the almighty dollar. And these are the people, the big wigs got to stand up, but also those of us who just give back to our colleges need to stand up as well. So we're continuing to see this permeate across college campuses, right? And yesterday, this was a very interesting back and forth on CNBC between Elizabeth Warren and Joe Kernan. Of course, Joe Kernan, one of the hosts on the CNBC Squawk Box morning show, and Elizabeth Warren is the fake Native American from Massachusetts. So Joe Kernan was asking Elizabeth Warren about, what we're seeing on our college campuses and how much blame they should get for what we've seen on college campuses. And needless to say, she was not going to point out and say the obvious.
Colleges, Senator, that allowed them to think that if it's leveled at Jewish people, it's okay. The same people that were marching with Black Lives Matter are now the one, or some of them, that would, go to the mat and be out every day marching for that, are some of the people now saying genocide to the Jews. How did that happen on liberal college campuses?
Calling for genocide is wrong. Leaders should make that.
You keep saying that. I understand that, but it came from somewhere. You don't think the progressive left has any culpability in driving us to this point right now, Senator?
I think that what has happened is that people feel the pain of the Middle East, and they feel it on both sides very personally.
That was Elizabeth Warren doing her best dance. Sorry, I get caught up doing my Elizabeth Warren sometimes. But you get the point. That was Elizabeth Warren on with CNBC's Joe Kernan yesterday getting grilled about what we're all seeing on American college campuses and how disturbing it is and how, yes, they have to shoulder some of the blame. Why? Because they are the ones who are permeating this. They have created a system where there are the oppressed and oppressors. If you are an oppressor in the eyes of this DEI woke movement, guess what? You can't be a victim. And the movement has created an environment where Jews are oppressors. Therefore, they cannot be victims. It's impossible. Even if you have people marching around college campuses calling for the death of them, it doesn't matter. That's the shell game that they have created here. And this is exactly what they want, by the way. And this is in a similar way to how COVID opened up a lot of eyes to what is happening in our K through 12 schools. This, over the last 2 months, and nobody would ever say that there's a good side of what happened on October 7th. But if there's an eye-opening side to what happened on October 7th here in America, it's truly how radical these college campuses have become. And there's a lot of people who were not aware of it. There's a lot of people who didn't want to admit it. There's a lot of people who wanted to stick their fingers in their ears and go, la, 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 nothing to see here. But no, it's on full display. And even those who didn't want to admit it, they can't help but realize it is absolutely true based on what we've seen these last couple of months on some of the most prominent university campuses in America. 913-408-7957. Coming up, speaking of all this, one of our local members of Congress had protesters inside of their office yesterday, right here in our backyard, calling for a ceasefire. We'll tell you whose office and the details behind it. I'm sure you can guess, but we'll do that next on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Well, we didn't get a chance to really talk about it yesterday because we were raising tens of thousands of dollars for Children's Miracle Network, part of our Miracle Day of Hope here on KCMO. And once we had those final numbers, I'll get them to you. We'll have them either later today or first thing on Monday. But thank you again for all of you being so generous yesterday. It was an outstanding day. It always is here on KCMO, and we had a great time. But, we had this debate on Wednesday night. And I'm not going to recap the debate necessarily because by now you've heard enough about the fourth GOP presidential debate from 2 nights ago. But what I will say is I don't know about you if you watched it, but I was really impressed with News Nation. News Nation is this upstart cable news channel that's 2.5 years old. They want to compete with CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. They've only been around for a couple of years, but they want to basically be what CNN was 20 years ago. They want to be middle of the road. They want to be news, and yes, they're going to have some opinion on there, but they're not going to do everything through the prism of left or right. And, they have some really good reporters. Example, Connell McShane. Connell used to be on Fox Business Network. He would come on the show when he was on Fox. I've lost track of him. I hit him up on Instagram. I DM'd him there the other day trying to get him on to preview the debate, but he didn't get back to me. But that's a guy who they hired away from Fox News who is really good. They've got people, when I've been on Fox News, it's been a few years now, but what's his name? Leland Vittert. My man Leland. I was on Fox News a few years back with Leland Vittert doing a weekend hit with him. He's over there at News Nation. So they've got some people from all the different cable news outlets, not just the retreads. Yes, they have Chris Cuomo doing a nightly show, but they have a good balance of people from both networks. That being said, I've never watched News Nation. I've mostly checked out of cable news at night because I don't learn anything. It's not funny. It's not that interesting. I don't want to bang my head against the wall all day. It's hard politics nonstop all day, every day. I don't really watch it like I used to at night. I still will check it out during the day when there's some news stuff going on. Or, our friend Harris Faulkner on Fox News, I'll check her out during the day. But for the most part at night, I'm not watching. But News Nation put on a product that was very impressive. They had the best moderators of any debate. It was the easiest debate to watch of any of the debates thus far. They did a better job than Fox, which overproduced it. They did a better job than NBC a few weeks back. It was by far the best debate of any debate to watch just as a consumer on News Nation. And it's one of those things that makes me think, okay, maybe they have a chance to be a player. I know that nobody actually wants unbiased news anymore. Just straight news. Not what I do, not opinion shows, not anything like that. But when you just want news, who can you trust and who is the source? Most people don't know where to go. Now, I haven't watched News Nation, so I don't know if they can pull it off. But that's their angle. That's what they're going for. They want to be what CNN was 20 years ago. Just straight news. And I'm going to give them a shot after what I saw in that debate a couple of nights ago. I thought that everything was handled well. Chris Cuomo did the post show, and it wasn't insane. They actually had Republicans on a GOP debate post show. There's a novel idea, right?
Talk about a bombshell.
So they did a lot of things that made me say, well, this makes sense. I like what they're doing here. They do a good job. Now, I'm saying all this, saying I'm going to give them a shot, but I don't have any expectations. I'll just leave it at that. But I have been meaning to watch them, knowing some of the good reporters that are over there. I just haven't had a chance to really do it yet. And I'm also like, do I really want to do it? Well, after 2 nights ago, yeah. And the ratings were good, by the way. So normally in prime time at night, Chris Cuomo, who is the top-rated show on News Nation, does about 150,000 viewers. Well, for the debate the other night, they did 1.6 million viewers. That's more than 10 times their typical primetime tune-in. So that's a great sign for a company like News Nation. Overall, they got 4.2 million viewers because they also put it on the CW the other night, which is owned by the same company, Nexstar. So overall, you had 4.2 million viewers, 1.6 million on News Nation, 2.6 million on the CW. Now, that's down from the 7 million people who watched the third Republican presidential debate on NBC. But you can't compare yourself, if you're News Nation, to NBC. You can't compare yourself to a legacy media outlet that's been around forever. You can only and should only compare yourself to yourself. That's all you should be doing if you're News Nation. And based on those numbers that I just gave you, that's a heck of a showing. They should be very pleased with that. And, you know, I'm sure there's now millions of people like myself who are at least going to give him a shot. And by the way, Chris Cuomo was looking awfully beefy the other night, wasn't he? I mean, that guy's been hitting the bench press like crazy and probably juicing himself up with a thing or two. I don't know. That's how he looked. He was looking way too beefy. Not fat, just like juiced up. It's like, Chris, do a little more reading, a little less lifting weights. I mean, I'm all about staying in shape. I like doing it too. But he looked, whoa. He was a little meaty the other night on TV. And I commented that to my wife as I was watching it. On the text line, 913-408-7957. That's the studio line and the text line here on KCMO. Now, as for the winner the other night, well, the big winner was Donald Trump because nobody separated themselves. Nobody stood out. The 1A winner of the people on stage was Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis, it's taken him a while, but he's been doing so much debating now between not just the presidential debates, but he had that Gavin Newsom thing last week. He's finally getting somewhat comfortable on stage. He's still not there, but he's getting more comfortable on stage. Now, it doesn't mean he's going to be the nominee. Not looking good for him. Not looking good for anybody outside of Donald Trump. But Ron DeSantis can still parlay this thing into a bright political future because he's getting better. He's finally getting emotional, by the way. He's not just a robot up there. And that's what he's desperately needed. Example, when he talked about confronting the cartels at the southern border and talking about basically shooting them. Like, frankly, there's a lot of people that appeals to, myself included. The cartels, not migrants, not people who are coming here illegally, the drug cartels who are smuggling people, who are smuggling drugs, fentanyl into this country that are killing Kansas Cityans and Americans every single day and is resulting in a record number of ODs happening in America, over 100,000 last year. They are essentially a foreign enemy, and we are waving to them along the southern border as they smuggle drugs and people into our country. Literally, that's what we're doing. We're waving, hey, how you doing over there? Come on over. Need a bite to eat? Need a bottle of water? I mean, that's how we're treating the drug cartels. That is absolutely insane. And it's that kind of emotion that Ron DeSantis tapped into that finally needed to be said. Now, Vivek Ramaswamy tried to do it, but gosh, when's the last time there was a guy as unlikable on a GOP debate stage as Vivek Ramaswamy who was really trying hard to be liked? Like, it's not unlikable like, let's say, Jeb Bush was unlikable. Jeb Bush was just like doofus unlikable. Vivek Ramaswamy is genuinely just unlikable. And no, it doesn't mean I'm a simp for Nikki Haley or anything like that. He just doesn't know how to be likable. Like Trump can act like a jerk sometimes, but when he acts like a jerk, there's something about it where there's like a little twinkle in his eye, and you kind of want to like him still, right? He just knows how to be bombastic and be obnoxious, but do it in a way that has some charm. That is a great skill set to have, by the way. Trump's got it. Vivek doesn't. He's just the guy you want to shove into a locker when he's done talking. And by the way, as far as I can tell, he wasn't shoved into enough lockers when he was young. The guy is just unbearable. And frankly, there was no reason for Vivek or Chris Christie to be on that stage the other night. It should have been Nikki. It should have been Ron. Pick the Trump alternative and let's all move on. Vivek is hoping to host a TV show after this or write a book or do a podcast. Christie's, I don't know, killing time to just do his next MSNBC gig ragging on Trump. I mean, there's no point in either of those two being there. 913-408-7957 as we roll through the 6 o'clock hour on KCMO Talk Radio. Kendall Gammon will be here at 7. Get set for the Chiefs-Bills this weekend. Coming up, speaking of the world of sports, and this is really sports, politics, foreign policy all wrapped into one. The biggest star on the PGA Tour, Jon Rahm, who won the Masters last year, is leaving for Live Golf. And he went on Fox News last night to explain his decision. Are you buying it? We've got the audio next on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. You know, I really don't like people telling me that it's raining when they're peeing down my leg. And that's exactly what one of the world's best golfers, Jon Rahm, did last night on Fox News. So Jon Rahm, one of the best golfers in the world, it was announced this week would be joining Live Golf. That is the Saudi-backed golf tour that has become a competitor to the PGA Tour. Now, of course, there was supposed to be this whole deal between the PGA and Live where they were going to basically come together and join forces, but nothing's really happened on that front as far as we know, so we're kind of in this wait-and-see mode. And in the meantime, Live Golf got a lot of leverage when they signed one of the world's best golfers, Jon Rahm. Won the Masters last year, young guy, Spanish guy. You know, a guy, here's why it's big. A lot of the golfers on the Live Tour are guys who are on the back end, on the back nine, if I can make the golf analogy, of their careers. Or guys who best days were behind them. Maybe they're still really good golfers like Dustin Johnson, but their best days are behind them for the most part. Phil Mickelson, the list goes on of different guys who were great, or really good, but just, aren't. But they're looking to cash in. Jon Rahm is one of the first guys they've gotten who suddenly is a guy who's in his prime, who won the Masters last year and has a huge future ahead of him. And the reports are, he got a $600 million deal to go to Live Golf. $600 million. Now, whatever you think of it, I've been, against the whole Live Golf thing and the Saudi money and all that stuff. But I can't in good conscience say if somebody dropped $600 million in front of me, I wouldn't seriously consider it. Now, if you've already got hundreds of millions in the bank and the word is Jon Rahm made $50 million last year, it's fair to say, okay, how much is enough? And how much is your soul truly worth? All those things are reasonable conversations to have. But I can't sit here as a blanket statement and say someone dropped $600 million in front of me. I'm not at least thinking about it, or at least conversing with myself and my family on that. I can't say that. But the bigger thing is this. If you're going to go on Brett Baer last night and you're going to go on Fox News, just be honest. Just be honest on why you're going. You're going because you got an ungodly amount of money dropped in front of you by the Saudis to join their golf tour. If you're not going to be honest with the casual golf fan, with the person watching Fox News last night when Brett Baer did this interview, then don't do it. But do not go on Brett Baer's show last night and talk about how the reason you're joining Live Golf isn't because of $600 million, but because of something as ridiculous as you want to play a team sport.
So why do you make that decision, and what's behind it for you?
It's not an easy decision because I've had a really successful career and I've been very happy. But there's a lot of things that Live Golf has to offer that were very, very enticing, right? Starting with team golf. Being part of a team is something that's been really big for me throughout my career. I was part of the Spanish national team from the ages of 14 till I graduated college. I was part of the Arizona State golf team. As a pro, you don't have that chance very often. And if you're European or American, you barely have that chance, right? So it's something that is very, very fun to play for something more than just yourself. And simply the growth that Live Golf has brought to the game of golf, right? It's something fresh, it's something new, something with a ton of potential and opportunity. It's something I'm really excited about.
Stop. I mean, that's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, guys, I'm just a team player. I just really want to play a team sport. I haven't played a team. I used to be on teams all the time back in my youth. I was on the Spanish team from 14 through college, and I love my time at Arizona State. Shut up. That is such a lie. That is such a bunch of BS. You got $600 million dropped in front of you. Live Golf had been recruiting you for 2 years. By the way, John Rahm used to mock Live Golf. Said he had more money than he ever knew what to do with. And now it's suddenly he had this awakening about how he just really loves team sports. Like, go play water polo in the offseason or something like that. I don't know what to tell you. But if you think anybody is buying that load of garbage, I still have the beachfront property in Salina to sell you. If you think that John Rahm is really going to Live Golf because he's got such a passion for team play, then please hit me up at 913-408-7957, and I will sell you at a premium my beachfront property in Salina. It has got your name on it. This is total nonsense. And Live Golf's been working hard behind the scenes to get them on there. And now they finally got, I would say, their biggest whale to date at a reported price of $600 million. And you still have some guys who are staying loyal to the PGA Tour. The Rory McIlroys, the Jordan Spieths, guys like that. And you got to give them credit. In an era when loyalty means less than ever before, it's sad to say, but it does, let's be honest. In a world where loyalty is dwindling and dying more so by the day, and everyone's supposed to just look out for themselves, their short-term wants and needs and successes, and nothing else, and we excuse it, there are guys who are staying true to what the PGA Tour is doing. And not that the PGA Tour is perfect. It is far from perfect. But at least they've been thus far men of their words, which you can say about John Rahm. Coming up on KCMO, we'll get you set for Chiefs-Bills. I'll be out there on Sunday. Ray's going to be out there for his first game, our new midday guy, Ray Stevens. Kendall Gammon joins us next. We have a jobs report that drops at 7:30, a busy 7 o'clock hour on KCMO. Look at my man Bill defending Taylor Swift. And by the way, he's right to defend Taylor Swift. Appreciate him, by the way, being a part of yesterday's Children Miracle Network Miracle Day of Hope, where we raised tens of thousands of dollars for kids right here in Kansas City who are fighting for their lives and helping out their families at a time of need. So thank you to every single one of you who donated. We don't have the official tally yet, but remember, our top 10 donors from yesterday are going to get a signed, personally addressed copy of Bill O'Reilly's Killing the Witches, which hit number 2 on the New York Times bestseller list. So, and by the way, Bill's right to bring that up. That topic he just brought up, he's right to bring it up. About how Taylor Swift was attacked as only getting the Time Person of the Year award because, well, she's, sign of white privilege. This is why I don't believe Taylor Swift is going to involve herself in the 2024 election. Things have changed a lot since she was political back in 2018 when she tried to endorse a Democrat in the Tennessee U.S. Senate race and her candidate got blown out. Taylor Swift is getting attacked because of her skin color by some people. She's going to stay out of this thing next year. It does not benefit her. She's too smart of a businesswoman to even think about hitching her wagon to Joe Biden. I mean, you've got to be insane to do that. So I don't think she's going to come near it. And by the way, I think as long as she's with Travis Kelce, she's definitely not going to go near it. You're going to be spending time in the heartland of this country and potentially making Kansas City one of your many homes, but part of your home for the foreseeable future. Hitching your wagon to that guy, it's a bad business move. It's a bad cultural move. Everything about it just stinks to high heaven. She's not going to do it. I don't see it for a second. And even she's got to realize, I'm getting attacked for winning Time Person of the Year because of my skin color? We used to call that racist. But remember, in a world of oppressed and oppressors, that's how the game is played now. If you are perceived to be an oppressor, whites, Jews, you cannot be a victim of racism. That's how the game is played. It's sick, but that's how it's played. So, listen, I'm happy for Taylor. I'm pulling for her, and I'll try to find her at the game and say hi on Sunday. See about that. Not in a weird way. Just say, hey, what's up? If you want to come sit out in the elements, let me know. I got a seat for you. That's all I got. Now, the drama, speaking of the Taylor Swift stuff, Bill O'Reilly segued this nicely for us. Kansas City Star just won't let it go. And that's about Kansas City Police Captain Danny Graves, who is the husband of Police Chief Stacey Graves. And the fact that he was seen at the game on Sunday night. He was in the tunnel with Taylor Swift and Brittany Mahomes, and people are asking the question as to why. Who is he working on behalf of? Who is he there with? KCPD really hasn't said much. They basically said, hey, you got to go talk to Taylor's representatives if you want to get some more information on this, but saying he effectively wasn't there on behalf of KCPD. So, of course, police officers having second jobs is not a big deal. The story here is that the Kansas City Star is not going to let it go. They not only reported on it, they then wrote an editorial on it. And the editorial that they wrote yesterday, that dropped last night at almost midnight, read as follows. Why must we ask about KC Police Captain, security work, and pop star Taylor Swift? And, they go on to say that effectively, and I'm going to paraphrase this here, the fact that Danny Graves is the husband of the police chief brings up more questions here than it would for anybody else. But what they're also doing is they're laying the foundation to undermine this police chief. That's what they're doing. I've been very clear. There's two storylines here. It is understandable is the wrong word. But if you want to say there are potential optics issues here, I can have that conversation with you, right? I mean, just things change. When you become a police chief and you're in the spotlight, you got to think differently. Everybody around you does. Friends, family, that's just how it goes when you're suddenly in a prominent position of power that is very visible in any line of work. Sorry, that's how it is. If you don't like it, don't apply for the job. I mean, that's just the reality of life. If you apply for a position that gets a lot of attention, you're held to a different set of standards. That's how the world works. Whether it's politics or whether it's police chiefs or whether it's celebrities or whether it's anything else, that's just how it works. Maybe it's not good, maybe it's not right, but that's how the world works. So, if you're going to make the effort to go ahead and do this, you got to realize the game's got to be played a little bit different. Maybe it's unfair, maybe it's not right, but it's the way of the world. Then the next part of it is the Kansas City Star and what they're doing. And what I believe they are doing is laying the foundation to undermine this police chief. They're not calling for her head right now. They're not doing that. But I believe they eventually will. And the reason that they're going to do it is because they've always looked like a horse's ass, but they will really start to look like a horse's ass because remember, they were part of the cabal that told us and tried to convince Kansas City that once Rick Smith wasn't police chief, everything was going to start improving. Rick Smith was the problem. And we all knew that wasn't the case. I mean, not that he was everybody's best friend. I mean, I'm sure there were internal fights and things like that every organization has. But anyone with common sense knew, hey, Kansas City's got a homicide problem, and I'm pretty sure it's not because the police chief is a white male. Anyone with common sense knew that. But the Kansas City Star tried to convince you otherwise. And now it's proven out not to be the case. There's a lot of reasons that the homicide issue continues to spiral out of control. By the way, none of it is Stacey Graves' fault. It's not. Wasn't Rick Smith's fault? It's not her fault. But when you're as dense as the Star is and you try to convince people it's really that simple of a fix, well, guess what? They're proven wrong. And now what they're going to do is try to undercut her over a period of time. And I hate that for her. But I'm telling you, that's what's coming, and that's what this story is really about. It's laying the foundation for that. The November jobs report is just 2 minutes away. We'll react to it and get it next on KCMO. Man, oh man, look at this. Jobs report just dropping, and it comes in hotter than expected. Here are the numbers, just dropped in the last couple of minutes. The economy added 199,000 jobs in November. The expectations were for 180,000 jobs. The unemployment rate fell to 3.7%, below expectations of 3.9%. Now, listen, I'm all about the economy adding jobs. I'm all about people going back to work or just going to work, getting a job, whatever it might be. But investors and policymakers have been sitting back kind of expecting a slowdown here, at least enough to allow the Fed to slow down interest rate hikes, stop interest rate hikes, and potentially start cutting interest rates in 2024. I don't think they can do it right now based on this number. Now, last month's number came in below expectations. It was 150,000 back in October. So this is the November jobs report. And the other thing that we're looking at here is hourly earnings. Hourly earnings were expected to show an acceleration of 0.3% from October and 4% over a 12-month period. Let me see what we got here. Hourly earnings up 0.35%, and then 0.35% month over month, and 3.6% year over year. So basically meeting expectations. I'm getting this in real time, so I'm trying to react to it in real time right now. Now, here's another concern that I've got looking at this report. I'm happy people are going back to work. Private sector payrolls up 150,000. Government payrolls up 49,000. So you still have 25% of the jobs created this month, or the jobs added this month, are courtesy of the government. And the government's broke. I just, that ratio, 3-to-1 ratio, I don't like. I want to see less government payrolls. I want to see more private sector payrolls going up. I mean, 150,000 is good, but when the government's adding 25% of your supposed new jobs for the month, it's not where I really want it to be right now. It's not where any of us should want it to be right now, especially when we're sitting here in $30-some-odd trillion in debt. 913-408-7957. I don't think Wall Street's going to like this. I don't think the market's going to like this today. I'm not expecting some big downward day, but I don't think they're going to be very happy with it because Wall Street's been pretty excited about the prospect of at least interest rates not going up anytime soon. And I'm not suggesting Jerome Powell's going to pivot to increasing rates, but I don't think we're looking at cuts coming out of this jobs report right now. 913-408-7957 on a Friday. Let's welcome you in. Glenn is in Lenexa. What's up, Glenn?
Hey, Pete. I think the job numbers are wrong. Every time they put these job numbers out, they come back and readjust them. So I think they're lying about the job numbers, and they're going to readjust them. And we didn't create 199,000. So that's my point.
Well, you're right when you say that they seem to readjust them for the previous month, like 2 months after the fact. You are right to bring that up there, Glenn.
That's what's going to happen. So, anyway, don't get too excited. But thanks for taking my call.
No, of course, man. 913-408-7957 is how you join us on a Friday morning on KCMO. But all I can go by are these numbers. But you're right. They oftentimes do get adjusted the month after the fact when no one's really paying attention. None of this is to say, I mean, if you're going to look at the jobs report and say, oh, the economy is doing great. Oh, boy, you guys who think that Bidenomics isn't work, it's still not working. Okay? It's not. Anybody who's living on Main Street understands it's not working. The people who are out there right now who are going to look at this jobs report and say, I told you Bidenomics is doing awesome, is the laptop class, the work-from-home class, who punches away at a keyboard all day, gets their DoorDash delivered to their home, gets their, what do they call the grocery deliveries? What's one of those grocery delivery services? You know those, Garner? Instacart, yes. The people who are doing Instacart and DoorDash all day and working from home, they're the ones who are telling you how great the economy's doing. The people who are actually out on Main Street, living in the real world, realize it is not doing great. It's not. And that's one of these things that, it's not to take away from this jobs report. It's not intended to do that. I want more people to go to work. I want more people to have jobs. That's a positive. I think that's great. But to look at this and suddenly say, look, oh, boy, it's working. No, it's really not. People are still feeling squeezed. They're still feeling stretched. It's been a tough 18 months. And those who are going to tell you that, see, this is a sign everyone's going to be really happy with where the economy's going, that's not true. It's not how it's going to work. That's not what normal people are thinking right now. 913-408-7957. Let's hit up next up. John's in Kansas City. John, what do you got for me, my man? Good morning.
Hey, Pete. How you doing, brother?
Good. What's happening?
Hey, hope to see you tonight at Johnson County Young Republicans. But give you a heads up, as I work in the finance industry, that is a horrible jobs report because I was on David Webb's show yesterday. There is a lot wrong with the economy, and it started with, I even thought, too, the closest person who got to it was Ron DeSantis talking about how the economy all starts at the federal budget. Because the simple fact is, our continuing resolution goes until the 2nd of February. Those numbers from October should have been a lot higher, and that barely breaks the plane in November. And we're talking about not only Christmas, people paying for Christmas, but the other number, too, that people aren't seeing, which I would love to see, is how many people are starting to fall behind on their student loans. That's come back into play. And then the other thing, too, is the housing market's a disaster, credit card debt's through the roof. Those numbers aren't jumping off the roof, doubling unemployment, cutting unemployment numbers in half. Granted, it took the U60 of unofficial unemployment from 7.2 to 7.0, but that is nowhere near expected. And expect, as we close down on Christmas, that the Federal Reserve to increase it 25 points.
Mm-hmm. No, great points there, John. You're right about all that. I mean, the housing market's still a mess. I thought it was one of the more interesting conversations from the debate the other night. We didn't really talk about it since we had our radiothon yesterday, but there was a conversation around the housing market. It is an absolute mess. And it stood out to me when it was brought up by one of the moderators that the average homeowner in this country right now is 49 years old. I mean, and I'm not saying 49 is old, but what it tells me, it's not old, but what it tells me is that younger people can't get into the housing market. There's no starter home anymore, You're lucky you get into a house and then you got a 30-year fixed rate, especially if you got it before the rates went up. You're not going anywhere for a long time. You're stuck. So you're right. I mean, and we know that consumer debt is to the moon. Like all this jobs report does not supersede all those points that John just brought up there. He's right to bring them up. And to answer your first question there, John, yes, I am glad you brought it up. I was going to plug it at some point this morning. I'm going to be emceeing tonight the Johnson County Young Republicans holiday event. Christmas event? I don't know. I'm going to call it the Christmas event. I don't know what it's being called. But they got a little gathering tonight, and I'm going to be emceeing tonight out there. I believe Jeff Collier is going to be there, 47th Governor of Kansas. Jake LaTurner, Kansas Congressman for the 2nd District. So we're going to have a good time. I'll be out there as the MC. My dad's in town. We're going to the Bills game on Sunday. He's coming along, so if you get caught talking to him in the corner, just please be nice. That's all I ask of you tonight. But we're going to have a good time out there. You can still RSVP on their Facebook page, I believe. Just search Johnson County Young Republicans. You'll find it there. I actually put it up on my Facebook page about 15 minutes ago, Pete Mundo on KCMO. So find it there if you want to join them tonight. I think it's $25 for tickets. So it's going to be a good time. I'll be out there as the MC, and we'll have some fun. We will have some fun. 7:43 on a Friday morning. Kevin Keatsman will be here in studio for a half-hour sit-down at 9 o'clock. We got Mark Falter next hour. He's going to react to this jobs report. We'll get his thoughts in less than an hour. Coming up next, I was at the airport yesterday picking up. And, I've been to the airport a lot lately, but most of it has been as a traveler. I was there yesterday picking up, and it suddenly hit me what is massively wrong with this airport. I will share that with you coming up next on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. So I figured out the problem at KCI. I still think it's a huge upgrade for Kansas City. No, you're not paying for it. You're only paying for it if you're someone who uses the airport. The airlines pay for it. They add it to their debt, and then they pass on the cost to the customer through airline fees and baggage fees and things like that. So we can put that to rest. Kansas City needed a new airport, needed a new front gate of the city. They got it. It's a great airport for the most part. But as I was picking up last night, I realized something. And I'd picked up there on multiple occasions, but for some reason it hit me yesterday. And it's gotten better for sure. They've gotten better in terms of figuring out traffic flow. But the issues that exist are tied to the crosswalks. When you go to pick up, and by the way, I don't mind the cell phone lot. The cell phone lot thing works out great. Hang out there for a few minutes, listen to the radio, listen to 95.7 FM KCMO, get a text. I'm here. I'm outside 1, whatever, E, F, G. You go pick up. It's not difficult. And it wasn't really a problem yesterday. But the reason they don't get good traffic flow is because of the dopey sidewalks or the crosswalks. First off, the first crosswalk as you go to pick up is too close to the turn as you're pulling into the airport. And that hit me yesterday as I was going to pick up my dad who's in town. I'm like, first off, this thing is too close. And then here's the other problem. Not the case for everybody, but there is not enough urgency when you're in a vehicle and you're at the crosswalk. I'm not saying you should put anybody at risk, but one thing I noticed yesterday is that let's say we let a group of people go across the crosswalk, right? They're going from right to left from the airport into the parking garage, or they're going to get their, car that's going to pick them up and go to the economy lots. That's also across the crosswalk. One thing I noticed is that if you let a group of, let's say, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people walk by you from right to left, what some cars are doing is instead of then going after the group crosses, they're like, oh, there's somebody who's 20 feet away from the crosswalk who looks like they're walking towards the crosswalk, so I'm going to wait for them to cross as well. No. I know you want to be nice, but you got to keep the traffic flow going there. They can wait. There'll be a couple of cars behind you that will, when the time is appropriate, stop for that group to cross the crosswalk. But we got a dual problem here. The first crosswalk is too close to the turn as you pull into the airport. And the second issue is some of you are being too damn nice. And I love people who are too damn nice, but not when you're congesting pickup at the airport. When the group of people cross the crosswalk, look to your right, make sure that nobody is immediately in the crosswalk, and then drive. That's what you got to do. You got to keep the traffic moving at the airport. And for some reason, it hit me like a sack of bricks yesterday that's the biggest problem we got up there. Now, by the way, that style is not unique to Kansas City. I have been in many airports where they have a similar crosswalk. But usually it's in airports that have less people, in smaller airports than Kansas City. I mean, Kansas City obviously is not going to be JFK, LAX, O'Hare, but it's also bigger and a bigger town than, the Memphises of the world. So you've got this issue here where it's bigger than the mid-sized city airports that it appears to have been modeled after, meaning you're going to get more congestion. And that's what's causing the problem up there. And it wasn't bad yesterday. It was just a little slower than it needed to be. And it finally hit me as to why. So they've had traffic cops up there. I saw them there over the Thanksgiving weekend. And they're not always the answer either. Sometimes those folks are more problematic than they're worth. Yesterday, there were none of them. But sometimes they can be helpful as they're kind of waving people through the crosswalk. Like, okay, you come on, keep moving. Let's go. Move that car. It can be helpful in the right scenario. And yesterday, I noticed just a little too much Kansas City niceness going on. It's like, okay, there's no one in the crosswalk. Let's all go. Let's get a few cars through. And then in 2 minutes, when there's more people at the crosswalk, they can cross. But let's go, folks. We got to get this thing moving up there. 913-408-7957 is our studio line and our text line on KCMO. Pete, why do they even use the crosswalks? Have the pedestrians cross on a different level, underground or a bridge? Too late now. Well, that is true, and that is what some larger city airports do, but a lot of smaller city airports don't do that. They have the crosswalk. So it's like they built it for a slightly smaller city than Kansas City is, which was a mistake. And that first crosswalk is way too close to the turn as you're coming in to pick people up. The other thing that needs to be noted on this as well is the fact that when you look at people going across the crosswalk and how they're getting there, there's no other way to do it. Maybe a bridge would have made more sense in hindsight, but the one thing you can knock the city for in all this is how you couldn't find an engineer for $1 billion plus project who would have figured this out. How is that possible? And I don't know if that's really just the city, if it's the city with the airport or with the airlines. I don't know. But how the heck you're spending $1 billion plus on something and you can't get that part right? That makes no sense to me. Now, speaking of airport news, United, they now have a chief sustainability officer. Her name is Lauren Riley. I want to share with you what these airlines are worried about right now. Instead of figuring out how we don't end up like sardines on these airplanes, how we end up making sure our flights are as smooth as possible, which they're not, we've got folks worried about sustainability and worried about green energy nonsense. Take a listen to this.
Well, we're super bullish. We're going to continue to invest. We're going to continue to lead. We're going to continue to be very transparent with our customers. Being clear about the solutions that we need is super critical right now. We have a target on our back. We are heavy emitters. I get it. We also need patience, though. So for us to show progress year over year means that I've got to go out and buy some credits on the market without having to change a single business decision that I'm making as a leader in sustainability at United. That's not okay. That's not what we want to do. But it's also a little awkward to say, we hear you, it's urgent, the climate is really getting hotter and hotter, but we need you to just hang out. Like, hang on for a minute, because we're trying to build a marketplace over here. But truly we are. And so the progress indicator, the KPI that I encourage folks to see is not just the capacity for production, but the actual production itself.
Oh, it's exhausting, isn't it? That is United Chief Sustainability Officer Lauren Riley on where United is headed with sustainable aviation in 2024. You know what a sustainable airline is? A sustainable airline is one that keeps its planes from crashing and stays out of bankruptcy court and makes its experience somewhat pleasant for its customers. That's a sustainable airline. I'd hope that United already employs people in charge of those two tasks, but as far as I can tell, no one in the airline industry employs people in charge with those two tasks. Instead, they're wasting money on sustainability officers. Gosh, you want to talk about misappropriating funds. These airline companies sure know how to do it because they are a complete and utter disaster. But good thing they're trying to save the ozone layer. Coming up, Sean McDermott, the head coach of the Bills, said something that is just insane. The Chiefs are playing the Bills this weekend. It turned out he made some 9/11 reference recently that is going to make your head spin. We'll get to it next.